the big breaking update that's coming in, 21 hours of high-stakes diplomacy and nothing to show for it. The much-hyped talks between the US and Iran in Islamabad have collapsed now. No agreement, no joint statement by both the parties, no breakthrough as present negotiations are concerned. US Vice President JD Vance has confirmed that on record that the talks have ended without any deal. According to US, a final and the best offer will be put on the table, but now it's in the court of Iran to choose not whether to accept it or not. The the United States has maintained its red line as well, especially on preventing Iran from acquiring the nuclear weapons that remain non-negotiable, is what JD Vance, the Vice President there, has said. Listen in.
To the Prime Minister of Pakistan and to Field Marshal Munir, who were both incredible hosts, and whatever shortcomings of the negotiation, it wasn't because of the Pakistanis, who did an amazing job and really tried to help us and the Iranians bridge the gap and get to a deal. We have been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms.
We go across to our guest, Major General Rajan Kochhar, a defense expert, and I'm also joined by Colonel Utkarsh Rathore, who's also the defense expert. Coming to you, Major General Rajan Kochhar, first, the world was in fact looking at Pakistan for some sort of breakthrough, but there has been no deal so far. United States Vice President has made it quite clear that there would be a final offer on the table, so the ball is in the court of Iran whether to accept that offer or not. But as far as the war is concerned, it appears that there will be no escalation in the coming days, and many experts are saying that we are back to square one. Your take on this?
I think I view this as a setback because there was much hope that these talks will at least go to the next round, because to scuttle these talks after 21 hours, I think definitely the setback. And Iran may like to reconsider its position, because the US has made it very, very clear that the nuclear issue is a red line for them, and it has to be accepted at any cost. So, and there was also yesterday a lot of talk about the Lebanese issue also, because the Lebanon issue was also raised very vociferously by the representatives of Iran there, and no movement was seen there, because Israel had taken a hardline stand on that, because we are aware that Israeli defense forces are quite deep into Lebanon as of now, and these operations are not going to halt in a very short time, because the mandate is quite large south of Litani River. So I feel that, yes, I tend to agree that hostilities or the escalation will not happen immediately, because some time will be given to Iran to reconsider this decision. And we can only be hopeful, because it is in the whole world situation is dependent on these talks. It is not only these talks are going to impact Iran or Israel or the US, it has a direct impact on the entire world economy, as we see the Strait of Hormuz, and I think much is expected there. And Donald Trump would also be under pressure, though Vance has made a very strong statement, but Donald Trump would also be under pressure to see that this war does not restart, because he has, apart from the domestic pressure, he has pressure from the Gulf countries also, because there have been strong indications from all his Gulf allies that they would want an end to this war and no further hostilities in this region because their entire economy has been affected, especially UAE. So I see this, certainly I see this as a setback, and maybe, as you said, the ball is in Iran's court now. So
Right.
let us await a kind of a reaction which we hope that it should be a positive one from Iran.
Absolutely, and we have a reaction coming in from Iran. They have made it clear that during the negotiation, and this is their statement, US tried to achieve what they could not achieve during the war. I'll come back to you once again. Let me take our viewers through what JD Vance, the Vice President of the United States, who was part of the delegation, said on this. He said there has been no agreement. Iran rejected the US terms, nuclear enrichment deadlock. That is one of the demands they had put forth. Sanctions and asset standoff, that remains there. Ceasefire conditions are currently unresolved. There's still 1 week of window that still remains. Let me go across to Colonel Utkarsh Rathore, defense expert, joining us live on the broadcast. So how do you look at this? Because the world was quite hopeful that there will be a breakthrough, but clearly there has been not. How do you look at the end of this negotiation window? Do you think Donald Trump will amp up the pressure on Iran, will try to escalate this? Because we also have a reaction from Donald Trump. He said that he does not care whether there is a deal between Iran and the United States because US has already won the war. Your take on this?
Akanksha, the JD Vance says that Iran did not agree on US terms. Iranian press release says that the US demands were maximalist. And Vance said that red lines were told to Iran. So here it's very clear that there were certain issues in which the Iran was not budging, and so was the US. And that's how these talks failed. So what happens from here? What, do we go back to the war again? And meanwhile, what a smart move Americans have done, that they have slipped through 2 destroyers into Persian Gulf through Strait of Hormuz. So now, if Iranians think that they can maintain a stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz, they are sadly mistaken. There will be conflict. And these are the 2 warships for which, if you remember, during the talks, Iran had demanded that the warship should be taken back from the Strait of Hormuz. And that's how they did a very smart thing. So now Qatar also said we will open the Strait of Hormuz. Demining will start because Donald Trump, somewhere he understands that he cannot leave Strait of Hormuz as a toll gate for Iran for the rest of the world to suffer. So here Iran has actually done a wrong thing by not showing flexibility. Iran must understand its situation, what sort of situation it is. Bad economy, the poor military, everything decimated. So what is going to fight for and how is going to fight for? So this is what it is. I know Americans were making very unjust demands. They must be asking for, give us that enriched uranium, so that Donald Trump can show it to the world that we have taken out this war trophy. They wanted opportunity to work in Bushehr nuclear power plant. So
Right.
there are 2 things which have actually brought down this war, talks. One is missile, another is fissile material. That's how. But I know when the Iranian delegation goes back, they discuss it with Pezeshkian and Mustafa Khamenei, if he's there, if he's around. So they will come back. They'll be come back. But what you are saying is very correct. What will happen to Iran-US war? Will it restart, or there'll be an
Absolutely,
uneasy
and that is something that remains to be seen, whether the negotiations will stall completely, or will they will go on in the coming 1 week, because that 1 week negotiation window still remains. Stay on with us. We'll come back to you once again. As both the sides walk away empty-handed, we're learning that the fallout is only starting. Reports are also stating that Pakistan, which hosted these talks in Islamabad, attempted to keep the negotiations going but failed to secure a breakthrough. The bigger question now is, what will come next? Is this the end of the diplomacy for now, or just a pause before further escalation? The ball is now firmly in US's court. It remains to be seen now what Donald Trump also has to say, but as both the sides have now walked away empty-handed, there has been no breakthrough, no agreement that has been signed. The fallout is only starting. Remember, the negotiations took place in Pakistan. It hosted these talks. It attempted to keep the negotiations going, but we're learning, as per the reports, it failed to secure a breakthrough between the two countries. Let me go across to Irfan, reporter joining us from Islamabad. You've been tracking all the details of the meeting that went on there. A question many people, answer many people want to know is what really went wrong, because people were hopeful, experts were also hopeful that there would be a breakthrough, but it appears that a friction point that has emerged has been the Strait of Hormuz. Take us to what really went wrong in Islamabad.
Actually, from US side, there was, straight away one demand, on top of everything, that, Iran should refrain from developing, nuclear capability or, having similar, weapons. But, it was like, one day talks, like, and United States wanted to get Iran to commit that, it will, agree, and then we will move forward. But Iran, I believe, it did not agree, and United States, they said that, this is our red line, because it is not the demand of the United States only, it is the demand of Israel, and US has to keep in mind that they have to keep and safeguard Israel as well, United States, because, US doesn't share any border with Iran, so the danger, feels is the Israel. So this demand was justified, and I think it was a bit aggressive from US, but they are being known, for their straightforward diplomacy, that they do not wait for so long, but one thing is good, that they have said that they have agreed on certain points, but this is their red line, and they have conveyed to Iran that what things they can accommodate and what they cannot do. But Iran has said that if there were excessive demands from US, and JD Vance has said that they did not agree to their demand, which was on the top of the agenda, that Iran should refrain from developing uranium enrichment and similar, developing similar weapons. But let's see. Their technical experts are still here. Whether they move with their delegations, or will they stay here or keep on going? On the sidelines, they will have meetings or not. We will have to wait for the final call from the Donald Trump.
Absolutely, very important what you just mentioned, that technical experts are still there, so it remains to be seen whether there will be further negotiation. But the key delegation, JD Vance, who was part of the delegation, Vice President of the United States, he has left from Islamabad, is what we're learning. Let me also take you through the statement that has come in from Iran. Through one of their social media handles, they have said that the US flew their vice president halfway across the world to Islamabad, 21 hours of talks. They demanded everything that they could not achieve through war. So could it be regime change, a wipeout of the nuclear capability, something that remains to be seen? Iran said a big no. The talks are over. The strait is closed, and the VP is flying home empty-handed. Just Iran's word again. They do not have any option left to save a face. So very important point that Iran has highlighted here, that as far as US is concerned, they demanded everything that they could not achieve through this war. Let me get you more perspective on this and go across to our consulting editor, Srinjoy Chaudhary. Good morning, Srinjoy. We have a reaction coming in from Iranian side as well. They have made it clear that US, through these negotiations, tried to achieve what they could not achieve through the war. So do they mean the regime change, the wipeout of the nuclear capabilities? Take us through the statement that has come in from Iran so far.
The first problem that both countries contributed to was the fact that when you have negotiations in front of you, you cannot talk about your wish list in public. Secondly, You cannot threaten each other. Now, in both cases, with America and with Iran, both tended to say, even before the talks began, that we want this and we want that
Right.
and we want so on. The best way to negotiate is actually to speak below radar, to speak quietly. Once you come up with your wish lists, once you explain to the world what your demands are, you become basically hostage to what you say. That's the first thing. Secondly, you paint yourself into a corner that you want this and this and this. Now, the other side says, sorry, I can't give these to you. So once that happens, then you come back empty-handed because you have made your demands public. If you make your demands public, then and you go back from there, you will become the face of trouble, because the world will say, your country will say, why you said this, you wanted this, and yet you've come back with that. How can what kind of negotiator are you? So that is the problem, that things started very badly. Then if you make threats in the course of the conversation or even before that, then very clearly you are not going to get very much. You're making life difficult for yourself. In any case, these demands on both sides, the issues are themselves, even if people had been quiet and properly diplomatic, it would have been difficult in any case. You've only made it worse for yourself.
Absolutely. A very important point that you've made. Let me bring in Major General Rajan Kochar on that. So how do you look at what Shinjoy just mentioned? Because even before the negotiations started, both the sides, they were out with their demands. They were threatening each other as far as, in fact, US is also concerned. They made it quite clear that they will not be too receptive if the attacks, Iran stalls the negotiation. But before I come to you, let me take you through what Israeli Prime Minister has said. He said that Israel under my leadership will continue to fight Iran's terror regime and its proxies, unlike the Turkish chief who accommodates them and massacred his own Kurdish citizens. So this is in fact a statement that is coming from Israeli Prime Minister, going on to clearly mention here that he will continue the fight on Iran's terror regime and the proxies as well, making it quite clear that he will continue to bomb Lebanon is what we are learning. Major General Rajan Kochar, I was just asking you what Shinjoy has also mentioned that both the sides, they were talking, giving threats, they were talking about demands even before the negotiations started. US was saying that they will not be too receptive if Iran stalls the negotiation. Iran was saying that they will hit back if there is a forceful reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Do you think that led to a sort of chaos between the two sides, sort of a friction between the two sides?
No, I don't think so, because this is part of the narrative war and it will happen. And it happens all the time. It's not the first time that when talks takes place that you don't do this kind of a saber rattling, because this is a saber rattling to actually unsettle the mind of the opponent. So I think this is part of the narrative war. It takes place all the time. And the major issues have to be discussed. The very fact that Iran went with a 71-member delegation, it shows that the intent was there on the part of Iran to seriously discuss all problems, including the central bank governor was going and the parliament speaker. And, you know, it was a very, very comprehensive kind of a delegation. And purpose was that they were prepared for a longer haul. They were prepared to discuss all nitty-gritties of all the issues, because see, this 15-point and this 10-point, well, you were in the media a long time back. It's not that these points were raised only before the ceasefire talks. They were already there. And certain red lines, I believe yesterday, Iran also gave a list of its red lines to the United States. President Trump and and Netanyahu had a call also day before yesterday. So things were trying to settle down, and I think Netanyahu would be the happiest man if these talks are failing, because he was not interested basically to end this war.
All right, and now both the sides making it clear that there will be no further negotiation, at least till now, but there's still that 1 week-long negotiation window that is open, so it remains to be seen whether there will be further talks and negotiations in the coming days. We have a statement coming in from Donald Trump. He has downplayed Iran's negotiation, saying that deal makes no difference to him. This comes as the peace talks between the two nations, they have collapsed. Donald Trump has made it clear. He has said that it makes no difference to him whether the two sides agree on a deal or not. He has once again said that US has already won the war. So US has won the war is what Donald Trump has said, saying that it does not make any difference to him whether the two sides agree on a deal or not.
They have no Navy. They have no radar. They have no Air Force. Their leaders are all dead. Khomeini is gone. For many years he ruled. He's gone. With all of that, let's see what happens. But from my standpoint, I don't care.
And for now, we know that the peace deal has collapsed. There has been no breakthrough, no agreement there in Pakistan between US and Iran. We'll continue to get you more updates on this. With this, a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.